Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today in this video, I'm going to show you that how can you master 80% of anything by just using 20 of the high quality nodes. Now after building 200 plus automation and helping many businesses automate and integrate AI into their overall business, I have seen that these are the nodes which I was using the most. Now based on my experience, I have made sure that I am able to tell you how to understand these nodes in depth so that you are also able to master anything in no time. With that, everyone, we also have a Udemy course now, which thanks to all of you is a bestseller. So do check it out. And along with that, we have a super active school community where we are uploading free resources as well as all the different workflows which we use in our YouTube video. So with that, everyone, if you're not aware, I'm Mayank Agarwal. Do subscribe to this channel so that you can understand and learn AI so that you can stay ahead of the curve in the coming year. So with that, everyone, now let's get started and master anything in no time. So let us start everyone mastering 80% of n8n with 20 notes. Make sure that you download this whole workflow as well from my school community. Now, before I begin, I would like to make one thing clear, and it is a little bit on the other side. But I will not say that, okay, you can master full n8n or these are the things which you can do, and let's say not do any other part. I see many tutorials, they are mentioning that how you can maybe escape any tutorial hell or like maybe how just by this 20 or 30 minutes you can be the full master of these n8n or let's say AI. Well, totally wrong. You will have to spend. First, we are not learning to code and are using these no code platforms so that we can get equipped with AI. Second, now in here as well, if you will cut Slack, then the same is highly not suggested. So a little different opinion, but I feel and based on my experience, the more time you are spending now on these no code tools, the better you will be able to be on that, right? But understanding these 20 nodes, they are surely going to be a lot helpful overall. So with that disclaimer, now let's get started. The very first one, note everyone, is the core triggers and the starting points. Now, what I have done, I have also made sure that I explain this whole thing in a very easy to understand manner. So, yeah, when you will get the workflow, you can also have a quick read through them. Now, coming to the starting or the core triggers, everyone. Now, we know the most common manual trigger, and of course, we all use this. Now, manual trigger is just to manually trigger something. And for those who are not aware, normally when we talk about an automation, an AI automation, or even agentic automation, it is just an input, then it is having some action, and finally it has a output, right? So input is majorly the trigger part. And to easily understand the same again, it can get triggered in multiple ways, right? Now, based on my experience, again, the most one which I use are this chat trigger, right? A chat message which opens up a chat like this, where you can send a message. Now, the whole idea is that why do we use it the most? Because normally, whenever I am trying to create a workflow, I first mock the data, right? So, if for an example, I would just like to show you a workflow like this. In here, before I made it active, I first tested this workflow fully with this chat trigger only. So that if tomorrow some other trigger is coming, maybe from Excel or Gmail or even my Telegram or WhatsApp message, this is how this will flow. So chat trigger is super important. Understanding each and everything inside this, making sure that okay, how can you open it, start a new session. So let's say if I just send a hi, right, then it will just reply to me for the time being. But I could also start a new session here, right? And to understand in depth that again, when I'm sending hi, what is the flow, how it is going to simple memory, then how it is going to the agent, and then how again the agent output is also saved to the memory when we are talking about agent here, right? So with that, again, super important, helpful in building production level workflows as well. Second is of course your Google Sheet trigger now, or let's say it can be any third party application trigger. We have to make sure that okay, once we have understood and mocked the same thing, then it can be Google Sheet, Telegram, WhatsApp, Gmail, Notion, any of these multiple apps trigger. So if you will go on add another trigger and you will go on add on app event, you could see like hundreds of apps here, right? So the whole idea becomes that more and more you are seeing these apps, right, or you are aware about them, you can surely use them, and that is where the power of automation comes. When you are doing an action in app, but this flows like this basically triggers the workflow and help you finally complete the same. And last is, of course, the webhook. Now, basically, because I also create many technical end-to-end solutions, webhook is super helpful in that, right? So webhook is just like how I could hit this URL. Okay, I could change it as well. So let's say start. I could just hit this URL and make sure that I could start the workflow anywhere, right? And the same is very helpful when I am dealing with, let's say, a personal application which I'm creating, because then, of course, n8n will not have any of the inbuilt trigger for my applications, right? So, for example, if I have AI with Mayank website, then for that, I would need that, okay, I have this webhook trigger so I can make sure that the full workflow gets triggered. So with that, everyone, like now, since we have understood how the things will get triggered, next, of course, becomes on the data manipulation. Let me just, collapse it. That is now, since we are done with this input or the trigger part, then some data will be flowing, right? So if let's say I'm sending a message, then it will be a data. If I'm calling it via webhook, then I may send some data as well, right? Some information about my students, etc. And that is where again we can perform multiple different actions. Now, to perform these actions, majorly we have to do this data manipulation part a lot, right? So, just as an example, this is the next very important node, which is normally I call this as set node, or you can call it at edit field node as well, where you can set the values, right? So, I can just let's say set name Mayank. Or if I like, I could also drag and drop some values from the, let's say, previous node, where I can now just make sure that I'm using these values which I have defined by the names which I have given. So again, super helpful whenever you're trying to run this or run any workflow. This you should be aware. And for people who have a little bit idea of coding, this is just like defining your variable, right? So this is actually the way through which you can define, okay, let's say name, email, etc. Make sure that you provide a structure to your overall data. And once you execute it, you will see that how in the output I have the leads where I have multiple things, and then I have this name as well, right? So super helpful, help you to just define your data. And of course, that is something which we are going to do a lot. After that, now once we got the data, and majorly in n8n or in like in these no code tools or in every use case, we are dealing with lists of data, right? So if I talk about that, let's say you see that how I have multiple leads, lead 0, leads 1, leads 2. Similarly, there can be multiple messages or something which I'm getting. It is very less a single message or some instructions to do. And that is where this split out node is very helpful, because it helps you to just make sure that you can split this thing out. Now, I'm again, if you will see, I'm getting the name everywhere, but it has been split out on the leads thing, right? And I could just choose no other field. Let me execute it now. And now my name has basically gone, and I can see the major thing that how it has split out. Once the same has been split out, like once they have been divided now, right? As we can see, they have now been divided into three things. Now I could take each and every one of them individually and do all my work on them. Majorly, what is the use case? So let's say if you have multiple leads, if you have multiple customers, you want to treat each customer separately. And that is where the split out data or split out node is very helpful. So yeah, split out is something which we will be seeing or using a lot. Now, once you have split out, and let's say if you are using any AI or multiple apps now, you will be getting the same number of data, right? So, for example, if I ask my DB that, hey, get me the information about Rudraksh, Rohan, and Raj. Now, once you have got this information, finally, you would also need to combine them. And that is where aggregate comes into picture. Now, if you will see, they are having a like totally opposite sign, because as split out was helping you to just divide the same, it helps you to now combine everything. So now once I join it, right, and if I show you the running it, so let me zoom it out. Yeah, if I show you by running it, let me just 1 minute. So we have the split out, and I can maybe select all data items into a single list, put output in the field, and let me execute. So yeah, now we are able to see this data. I could change it into leads as well again. And of course, this will be the enriched data now, right? This all follows from again the coding paradigm only, where whenever we are getting multiple items, we take them one by one. work on them, and then also combine the result, right? The benefit is that again, multifold, we can process them in parallel. We can have them processed based on some condition as well, right? So that is where this split out and aggregate is a lot helpful. Now, another major or another kind of a merging or just joining kind of is a merge node, where what we can do is we can just merge the items, right? So as the name suggests, you just give it, let's say, multiple things which are coming, and it can help you merge. Now you can just choose the number of input as well, right? I think the maximum is 10. So yeah, if you have 10 outputs, then you can append them or combine, or let's say write a query to do the merge or choose the branch. Okay, output data from a specific branch. So these are some options, but merge, super helpful. You will be using this a lot as well. Now, again, as I mentioned on the condition part, that you could run something on the condition. Now I could work on this data again, right? So this is the data everyone which I have created. If condition, pretty straightforward, we can have a true or a false based on something. So let's say that I get this name, and I will just make sure that I move forward if this is Mayank. So the second I execute it, you see that in the true, how I am getting all the data now, and in the false branch, nothing is flowing. The same you will see here as well, how this true has turned green, whereas false is black. False is gray. So yeah, if you have any conditional run, right? If you want to say run on some particular time, location, any of the value, that is where if is a lot useful, right? So the idea is that when you are actually trying to work and create something like this flow overall, you will be having many applications, right? Where you will be maybe getting the data or sending the data. But in between, the most useful are these data manipulation nodes where you can work and change this data, right? Similarly, we have switch. Now, switch again can have multiple outputs value just. So I could have, let's say, Mayank, then Rohan, and let's say Raj. So the idea is again the same, that we can have these things. It can like make sure that it can even giving out multiple outputs, right? So the whole idea becomes that if you are using this, in fact, then I could run it in this manner. So I could have, let's say, name again. So I should actually have this here, and I should say that it is equals to Mayank. Now, similarly, we can just have the same field, everyone. And as you see, it is having multiple things is equal to string, number, date and time, boolean. It can be less than as well, date and time in that ways. Right. So this, of course, is very, very helpful as well, right? I could just drag this name again, and I could just drag name here as well. So now if I will run this, as you will see, it will be just on the first node. If I just go inside it and do it, let's say Mayank, let's see how many of you are able to understand this. If I run this, right, it is still the first node. So normally it runs on the first part. So that is how switch has been working. And one more thing to understand, this is not something which is like out of coding. No, switch statement is there in each of the major languages. So you could surely and easily just work with that, right? It is just having these multiple if conditions in a way. So let's say if you have three things where you want to apply the condition, instead of just a simple if else, we are just having now multiple of these outputs where we can control how it goes. And the last and definitely not the least, and yeah, I know that it's a no code tool as such, is your Python or JavaScript code in Node, where you could easily ask AI. So let's say that if again I just delete this thing, drag this edit node, and of course, when you are building this as well, chat or the edit field is a very, very awesome way of dumbing your data. Instead of directly connecting with the app and maybe spending some time here, you could just define your logic by this set field as well, right? Now, what I can do once it is getting the data, and I think it is there in JavaScript directly, I could ask AI. So just extract the first name, or let's say name and Gmail from each lead. Now it will be context aware and it will be giving you the code. So it is not the case that okay, you have to know the coding. You could use Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, any of these AIs. And once you give it the context, maybe the screenshot and everything, it will just give you a code. So this is super helpful when any typical thing, okay, so it is maybe giving an error. We might have to work on the same as well, right? It is very, very helpful when we have anything which cannot easily be done, right? So that is where code is super, super helpful. Now, of course, you can have to do multiple iteration, but yeah, that is totally fine. Not at all a problem, right? As we can see, okay, I think we can return this and maybe we can run it directly so that we can get the data. So that's the whole idea. Now, one more thing which I would like to mention here, everyone, on all of these nodes which I'm covering, you will see that how they have this docs thing, right? So this docs part, please make sure that you go and learn about them in depth with this official documentation. Believe me, that is going to be a game changer. You will know about all of these nodes in complete depth. And that is what will make you like the full overall master of these nodes. Okay. So with that, the data manipulation node clear. And of course, you can work on the code easily, not a problem. Right. If I will just maybe ask ChatGPT to do it again, or let's say Claude or anything, we should be able to get the completely working code. Okay. Now, next, everyone is external request. So, ideally, what happened is that though n8n as an app is having multiple different uh, like overall apps, okay, or integration with these apps, many time it happens that you need to connect to some totally different app, or like let's say which is not a part of that. Now, many people think that just as an example, there is another no-code workflow which is Zapier, and if you will see Zapier integration, it is 8,000 plus apps. And n8n has something around, I guess, 500 plus or something. Well, the difference is that at the end of the day, you could use this HTTP request node to just make a request to any outside thing. As an example, again, if let's say I have something of, so I've just created this mock data and everything, right? So if let's say I have my AI with Mayank thing. So again, just think that, okay, it is some API. Let me paste it again and hit it. Now, this AI with Mayank, of course, I will not have any node in n8n or Zapier or anywhere, right? The idea or what makes n8n more powerful or the most powerful is that how you can easily integrate. And we are using many of this into our startup as well. Like I'm using this to automate stuff where we are hitting our own APIs. So now I could just hit this API and just like I would get the data or the emails or anything from a integrated node, which is there in n8n, I could get everything in the similar manner from this like HTTP requesting. So super, super helpful if you're building flows which are actually helpful, which actually makes a difference rather than just playing around. Okay. So in that, you can again see that how it has all the options, send query parameters, send headers. If you would like, just tell me, and I would love to get a proper end-to-end 2-3 hour video where I'm explaining APIs in depth using these no-code tools. Okay, so the same I think will be very very helpful. Now, once the HTTP request is clear, again you could just use it to connect to any outside service. Parallel or rather opposite to this is the overall webhook node, which I showed you in the trigger part as well. So here, what happened is that now if you want to start your workflow or you want to integrate n8n into your own application, right? Which is not again supported, like the trigger of that is not supported. So understand this distinction. There is two things. Either a app can trigger your workflow. So n8n should support that trigger thing. For example, if I just show you by going back, this is a Google Sheet trigger, right, everyone? Now this is connected to this sheet. So if I fetch test event and if I just, let's say, copy this thing here, then this row added will show here, right? So I can just do one thing again. Let me just make this thing like 2 and Mayank and 1000. Okay, something like this. So let's see intent now. So I think it has just ran for and got the values. Let me again just try to see it again. Now if we fetch it, and I think this was wrong. Hopefully it will run now and get me the value. See, it is able to get the value and get triggered by anything in my Excel. In a much similar manner, if you want to trigger your workflow based on something in your application. So let's say when I get email onto my website or I get any chat message onto my website, that is where this webhook node is very, very important, because that is how you can start your written workflow from your app again. So very, very simple thing. If you just, let's say I just press this listen to test event. Okay, I think it is saying errors because there are some issues in the overall workflow. Let me maybe try to delete and run it now. Yeah, I think it will not run till we solve everything. So instead of like removing every error in this sheet, what we can do, I have created another one. Now let me just open it. Let's make the path as test and say now I'm like trying to trigger anything inside this workflow from like any of my application or even my browser window as well. So what I can do, I could just paste and see. Okay, no response found in the webhook. I've not configured the same. But yes, I'm able to get the data. So let me just say immediately now when executed, I could just refresh and see workflow has started. So understand this distinction because that is what will help you to make proper and great applications, right? So this is how again your app can trigger in a way, right? So HTTP node was to make sure that n8n can connect to your application. This webhook is to make sure that your app can connect to n8n. Okay, so this is again very important thing to understand. Something which you will use a lot if you are like integrating that into your own, let's say, website or somewhere. Now, moving forward, everyone, once you have understood this, then again, the next is the data node, which is again like kind of a very simple part where you can append to your sheets. So let us like select the credentials. Minute, let me just quickly zoom in. Sorry, log in. Not sure why the same has not been configured. So I'm just providing it the access, right? Now, once I've done that, you will see that how it is able to connect to my Gmail. And now I could select untitled spreadsheet. I could select the Mayank sheet and see it will just fetch the column. So I could say 3, then let's say AI training, and I could say let's say 5,000 and execute the step. And once the same gets executed, some change will happen. So it is just my n8n able to connect. So see 3 AI training 5,000, right? Now, of course, in similar manner, you could maintain the data in Airtables, Notion, or any of that database. Like you can connect to multiple DBs as well. The idea is pretty simple. You will be working on data and nodes like this makes it very easy for you to handle the same. So yeah, the same will be very helpful. Now this next one, everyone, let's move on to the sub workflow. And yes, you don't have to make any notes. I will just quickly iterate how I have made sure to provide you everything here. So the second you will see it, let's say data storage, it is able to understand and easily understand, like explain you everything, right? Now, once this is clear, let's see the sub workflow node because it is again very helpful. I will also be having a project where I explain the same in depth and building it in side by side. This helps you to, in a way, modularize your n8n code now or n8n workflows. Now, what do I mean by that, everyone? Is that let's say if I've created a overall flow here, right? Now, this agent, this full agent, if I have to call from hundreds or like 50 of different workflows, I could easily do if I am saying that, okay, my workflow, this workflow can be triggered from another workflow. So again, it is just a trigger at the end of the day, where the trigger is another written workflow. So if I just, let's say now ask it and just run it again. So let me, let's say, select the email, 1 minute, email template, Gmail template. And now you will see that how it is asking for query and I can say send an email to tech.mayankagarwal@gmail.com with hi subject. And if I run it, then the whole logic, this thing is going to trigger everything, right? So I think I should enter the subject and Ola as body. Now, if I execute it, everyone, you will see that how this, via this, I am easily able to trigger my this full workflow. So you can again have these small workflow which can be called from everywhere. And if I just go to my Gmail, you will see that how actually I've got the email as well. So see, hi, Ola. It was just sent 0 minutes ago, right? So I hope you do understand that why this is very useful. Now you could create these small workflows, just like let's say or snippets of code or like anything the way you work on. And yeah, they can be then triggered easily. So I always make sure that I'm dividing these flows in a proper business setup as well, or when I'm doing consulting, so that they are very nicely manageable, right? So I could manage and make all the changes here and also making sure that then they can be called from multiple workflows. So yeah, this is again super helpful. Learn to master it and surely your workflows are going to be very great moving forward. Now, last everyone are the AI agents and integration. So of course, the reason these no code tools are now getting all the traction, I always say, is because of these AI agents and like all the AI integration. So there are again multiple of them. Normally, like you must have seen the agent and the simple AI call, but n8n has just recently introduced these guardrails as well. So super super helpful. And one more which I like a lot is this sentiment analysis. Now, by default, you will see that how it is having just the simple sentiment. But the way I like to change it is that I can change it to anything. So let's say sales, tech, and let's say product. And if I say I want help or let's say technical help, then you will see when I execute it, right? Okay, I think it has to be connected to a model. Let me quickly do that. Sentiment analysis. So just to show you quickly, right? Because this is what I do all the time. Instead of like making any super like model, what I do is I just make sure that I'm able to create and use this sentiment analysis thing. So now when I executed everyone, it is having the OpenAI brain. Okay. Let me see this, why it's a problem. So it was just asking to connect a trigger node. Now again, I've just connected the manual trigger. Now if you will see how it has made sure that when I asked for it, working kind of like a switch one with the brain, right? It is able to have the tech branch. So the sentiment analysis is telling the categories tech. And of course, you can go in logs and see the everything. So again, this is also very, very important part, which not a lot of users do. Go and understand your logs. Okay. In coding, also, we are a lot dependent on logs. The same thing is true here. So as you will see now, I have used the same for like normally you will see it being used for positive, neutral, or negative. But anytime you have that decision making kind of a thing where you want to route your let's say workflow based on some logic, of course always use this sentiment analysis. Now along with this, everyone, I think AI agent is something which we all are kind of aware that how it can have a model which is a brain, how it can have a memory as well as a tool or something. So just to show you, this is a AI agent. It is having an open AI brain. It is having a simple memory and these multiple tools. Now, along with this, what we also can do is we can provide an output parser where we can tell that, okay, how we want the data. So I could, let's say, define something like this that I want whenever this runs, I want the data to be, let's say, first name or maybe let's say reply. And just I can say string here, like just to give an idea, and maybe cities. So again, whenever the output is coming, you are just trying to mold it into a structure. Now, the reason we do that again is that this structure can then be used to connect to other apps. So JSON again in the API part is something which gets used a lot, right? So always you will be like communicating with JSON only. And with respect to that JSON, everyone, this is where it is very, very helpful that once you get the structure, you could use it to connect to different APIs, endpoints, and other application. Now, of course, after that, there is of course the basic LLM chain. Then you have the question and answer chain. So a simple rack kind of a thing. Now where you can just connect, give it a model, give it a retriever, and you can just ask any question. Okay. Similarly, again, the text classifier. So you can just say the text to classify, define the categories. Okay. So this is also super helpful. Just like a little bit better version of your sentiment analysis, because here you can provide the category as well as a little detail about your let's say category. Okay, so very very helpful, works in a similar manner the sentiment analysis work, and you are able to get all the answers into this chain thing. So just again a better switch statement with the brain. And of course embedding, like how you can just easily make sure that you connect and like let's say make sense of multiple embeddings. So like we can have the vector store retriever. Okay, how many we want to retrieve, like normally the same is very very helpful. Now I can provide the vector store here. So the way this thing is will be helpful when you are defining or your workflow is based on something which is let's say on some internal data, right? So that is how it is used. So yeah, with that everyone, I have walked you through most important nodes in your full n8n or the automation journey. I have also told you and showed you example for each node on how we use the same, right? Along with that, I have a proper write-up for you so that you can go through the same and make sure that you are always on top of them. If you have any other doubt, please reach out to me or please make sure that you are asking the same in the comment. And make sure that along with that, you also join my school community. So let me quickly show you. Like we are now a very good family of 1,000 plus, and I will be uploading multiple resources and everything here. As you can see in the classroom, we have the beginner foundations where I have very nicely defined each and everything in there, right? So everything is kind of covered here. in future we will be making sure that we upload multiple things. I am also hosting a Q&A which is going to happening in 13 days, right? So if you have any doubts, you can surely just come here and ask me. And along with that, you see that how people are also hiring from the community. So yeah, that will be very, very helpful, everyone. If you join that, I will be creating multiple categories. And I do plan to make it the biggest automation category in India and abroad. So yeah, join me in this mission and I will make sure that you are understanding each and everything in the world of n8n. Along with that, do subscribe to my channel. The same will be very, very helpful, of course. And I will be bringing in lots of content in the world of AI with no code everywhere, so that starting in the next year, 2026, as well as like this 1 month, you are able to take the maximum benefit of AI and transform your career. So with that, let's meet in the next video, everyone. Pretty sure that you have understood everything. Do ask if anything is there in the comments, and I will be more than happy to help you. And yeah, do subscribe to my channel.